What's the dumbest argument you've ever been dragged into? I'm a high school science teacher, and last year I had this one student who was absolutely convinced that gravity wasn't real. Not that he didn't understand how gravity worked, but that the entire concept was a massive conspiracy created by the government to control people's minds. It started during a basic physics lesson about why objects fall to the ground. I was explaining gravitational force when he raised his hand and announced that gravity was fake and that things only fall because the Earth is constantly accelerating upward through space. I thought he was making a joke, so I laughed and continued with the lesson, but he kept interrupting every few minutes to point out holes in what he called the gravity theory. When I dropped a pencil to demonstrate gravitational pull, he insisted that the Earth had just moved up to meet the pencil instead of the pencil falling down. I tried to explain that this would require the Earth to be accelerating at an impossible rate, but he had an answer for everything. He claimed that the government had special machines hidden underground that were constantly pushing the Earth upward, and that all the world's scientists were in on the cover-up. The situation escalated when I assigned homework about calculating gravitational force between objects. He refused to do the assignment because he said it was asking him to participate in spreading government lies. When I explained that this was basic physics that students have been learning for decades, he asked me how much the government was paying me to brainwash children. I spent an entire class period trying to convince him that gravity was real by showing him videos of astronauts in space, but he claimed that all space footage was filmed in underwater studios with special effects. When I pointed out that you can see satellites moving across the night sky with your own eyes, he said those were just government drones designed to make people think space travel was real. The argument reached peak insanity when he started trying to convince other students that gravity was fake. During lunch, I overheard him explaining to a group of kids that the reason people don't fall off the bottom of the Earth isn't because of gravity, but because the Earth is flat and constantly accelerating upward through space. He had somehow created an entire alternative model of how the world works, where underground government machines were pushing the planet upward at exactly the right speed to simulate gravitational force. When his grades started suffering because he refused to complete any assignments related to physics, his parents requested a meeting with me. I explained the situation, thinking they would help talk sense into their son. Instead, his mother asked me why I was being so closed-minded about alternative theories of physics. She said that traditional education was too rigid and that I should be encouraging students to think outside the box instead of forcing them to accept mainstream science. His father went even further and accused me of discriminating against his son's beliefs. He said that denying gravity was no different from any other philosophical belief, and that I was violating his son's freedom of thought by marking his assignments wrong. When I tried to explain that physics isn't a matter of opinion and that gravity is a measurable force, they said I was being dogmatic. The meeting ended with them threatening to report me to the school board for discrimination. After that, the student became even more convinced that he was right because his parents had validated his beliefs. He started bringing printed articles to class that he claimed proved gravity was fake, but when I looked at them, they were just random blog posts written by people with no scientific credentials. The final straw came when he convinced two other students to join his anti-gravity crusade. They formed what they called the Truth Seekers Club and spent their lunch periods making posters about how gravity was a lie. They hung these posters around the school until the principal had to take them down and ban the club from meeting on school property. Eventually, the student's parents pulled him out of my class and enrolled him in an alternative science program. I heard from other teachers that he's now convinced that the sun is actually cold and that heat is just another government conspiracy designed to sell air conditioning units.